Hello and welcome to PopNerdery, the show that's nerdier than using the Fibonacci sequence to generate your /dot password. This is a place where you're allowed to have an opinion on anything in pop culture, but you gotta have more than just a little bit to say. We'll pick out some of the highlights that have us talking this week and spit out some takes that hopefully get you a buzz as well. I am your host, Brent. Welcome if this is your first time joining us. Hey, Toph.
Hi, Brent. Toph Howden, your favorite rapper's favorite blogger and resident raconteur.
Hi, guys. This is Dave. I know how to spell raconteur.
I don't.
Toph, hit us with some housekeeping.
So you got a couple different ways to interact with us. You obviously got the podcast that's in your ear holes right now, so congratulations. You've already made your first good decision of the day.
Yippee!
You can also follow us on Twitter at PopNerdery, PopNerdery. Comment on things that happen between the shows, offer flaming hot takes, hashtag hot takes, and generally misuse and abuse emojis. There are three ways to listen to the show. The first is the old trusty iTunes. Jump to the iTunes store in the podcast section and just search PopNerdery. Rate, review the show, comment, say nice things. My ego is fragile. Please be gentle. Click the subscribe button. Put it in your phone. Put it in your laptop. Put it in your iPad. Put it in your friends. Don't ask their consent. Just go ahead and do it. The second is you should listen to it directly onto the site. All the episodes are archived there for your listening pleasure. The third way is to whisper the ending of Lost into the face of a paper crane and throw it over your shoulder, and Dave will show up directly behind you and podcast live.
I'll do it.
You will.
Early great advice from the PopNerdery crew. Put it in your friends. You don't need consent.
Yeah.
So that's just how we do things. But jumping right off, after a little bit of housekeeping there, Dave is going to talk to us about some of the headlines that have us talking.
Yeah, when it comes to PopNerdery, Brent, no means yes. The first thing that I noticed today was one of my best friends from childhood. This guy, he travels inside of a spaceship with one of my other best friends from childhood. His name is Chewbacca. Chewbacca is a Wookiee. Oh, fuck. I want you to do that at all times. Please just... you have a language? It's just called Wookiee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
All right. Well, we're going to turn this shit into the Star Wars Holiday Special for you, and Brent's going to speak in Wookiee with no subtitles.
Oh, I love that. Happy Life Day, everybody. Happy Life Day.
Well, it wasn't a happy day for Chewbacca. Chewbacca was arrested in the Ukraine this week, guys. I don't know if you saw this, but in Ukraine, apparently it is illegal to campaign, which, we're coming up on, the second year of our 3-year presidential election cycle, so I feel their pain. But it's illegal to campaign in the Ukraine, I believe just near a polling place. I don't know. I don't know Ukrainian laws, guys.
You're not up on Ukrainian law?
God.
I'm not yet.
Dave, be a fucking citizen of the world for once.
Guys, Chewbacca, I'm very America-centric.
A nerd.
We're the only ones that matter. And hello, international listeners of PopNerdery.
And goodbye.
No, so Chewbacca was arrested because he was campaigning for Darth Vader. Now, this sounds weird, but Darth Vader is actually running for mayor in Ukraine because in Ukraine they have a thing that is called the Ukrainian Internet Party, and they elect presidential candidates. So
I like internet parties.
Yeah. So that's what happened. Chewbacca was arrested by police. Seems like the police in the Ukraine had a good time with it. They were very funny, but...
And then they beat him to death and put him in a labor camp.
Oh, guys, this is not America. I mean, it's not like... Yeah, anyways, let's not talk about police brutality on our nerd podcast. But yeah, so Darth Vader's running for mayor in Ukraine. I have a couple of problems with this. One, when you look at the pictures of Chewbacca in court, they did make the guy take off the mask, right? Because I'm sure it's not an actual Wookiee that was arrested because you can't do that. He'll pull your arm out of your socket if you lose a game of space chess, or if he loses a game of space chess. So they let the guy wear the mask in court, which seems
that's kind of incredible,
un-American. And my second problem with it is it just doesn't fit with the canon. There's no way Chewie's campaigning for Vader, right?
As an international diplomat, doesn't he have diplomatic immunity? He's not even from the goddamn planet.
Immunity.
I don't think Chewbacca ever served on the Galactic Senate, but that's just my 2 cents, I guess.
That's all right, guys. Jar Jar did, and he was a pivotal part of the franchise.
And moving on to headline number 2.
There we go. Apparently, there was some space junk. It's headed directly toward the planet Earth. I am not that concerned about it. You should not be that concerned about it. Apparently, NASA was concerned about it for quite a while because it was streaking directly toward the Earth. But it turns out, as my friends here at Scientific American are telling me, that it's only 7 feet long. So I'm not that worried about it, but it seems like NASA was for quite a while.
Are you saying the girth of the space junk is what I should be concerned about more?
Yes, if the space junk was a tad bit girthier, we might have a very painful impact that we need to prepare for.
Brent, yeah, it's not the girth; it's the apex of its orbit.
I see. The entry of that object is really what's of concern to all of us. No, I think one of the jokes that's being played out is the object itself was given the name WT1190F. So the letters there are perfectly in line, WTF. And I think that's my precise reaction to this news. But yeah, fascinating, because I guess this is one of the few objects that they've been able to predict the course of in a way that they haven't other natural objects. So perhaps it's of an alien origin of interest. But yeah, we'll see.
Toph, do you have any thoughts on space junk? There we go. All right, moving into the world of television. Supergirl premiered, not to date ourselves, but it premiered this week. And it scored actually the highest ratings of any new fall premiere. So I didn't watch it. I'm sure the two of you didn't watch it. I didn't watch it because of any sort of objection that I have to it. But it's cool to see a female superhero. There were a ton of pictures all over social media of the star of the show, Melissa Benoist, posing with young girls, Girl Scout troops, brownies, shit like that. That's cool. It's cool that they have a show that they can turn to, and it's also cool that whoever thought that Kara Zor-El would carry a fucking television show of her own. That's cool to me. Brent?
Yeah, the only thing that came across my radar is that it got Jeb Bush's attention. So good for Supergirl. Apparently Jeb Bush finds her attractive. And so when the world of politics and DC comic television series intertwine, I think that just means we're in great places.
I mean, I was just hoping that Gorilla Grodd would show up at the GOP debate. I thought that would be fun for me to see, but
I would vote for Gorilla Grodd.
That was the Washington D.C. and DC Comics crossover that I really wanted.
The only DC crossover I want is Gorilla Grodd on the floor of the Senate.
All right.
2016.
Next up, X-Files.
Here's a snowball.
X-Files is coming back. I did not watch X-Files during its first run, but I've caught up on some, not all. It's difficult. It's a difficult show to binge.
Wow, yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's a difficult show to binge because there are 24 episodes per season, and it ran for quite a while. That's a binge challenge, I guess. The new X-Files revival, much shorter. Only 6 episodes, 6-episode arc. And they revealed a trailer this week. So you guys have any thoughts on the X-Files revival?
Yeah, Dave, I know that you're like 15 years old, which is weird because we were just talking about you drinking. So as your father, I'm going to have to call the cops on you. But back in the day, a long season was a good thing because it meant that your favorite show didn't go into hiatus after 2 months. So as someone who loved the X-Files when it was actually on the television before we had DVRs and had to use VCRs like cavemen, I was very excited to see it come back. I completely disagree with you. It's hard to binge, only because Amazon Prime picked it up, and I went through the first season inside a week, which might be a problem for me as opposed to, your position may be the totally reasonable one here.
I think, all right, well, bringing up, you talked about reasonable opinions. I'm sure we're all going to have a lot of unreasonable opinions, and we might shout a little bit loudly, so you might want to turn your volume down on your podcast machine.
Turn it up!
Hot Topic Joker was on the cover of Empire this week. Big, full-page picture of Joker from the Suicide Squad movie. Apparently, all of the characters are going to be getting their own Empire cover, so we're going to get full looks at every single character. But I know that we have some issues with Hot Topic Joker. There was a rumor when they released the first image of this Joker that the director was playing a practical joke on us with all these tattoos and the Mexican gang cartel look. As the costume designer put it this week. Turns out that's not the case. So let's keep it brief, but let's get our anger out about this real quick. Go ahead, Toph.
I wish I was dead and that costume would die up there.
Wow, I was afraid you were gonna underreact to this one. Nope. I wish I was dead.
Brett?
I as kind of the resident non-Batman priest on the podcast, I think there's less relevant commentary going to come from me, but as always, I'm more verbose. I definitely think that this look is different than any other iteration of Joker, and maybe they felt like that was their only option. I think, there were a lot other ways they could have gone with it, certainly than whatever the fuck Jared Leto is supposed to be. But I definitely think they set themselves up for failure, because if you try to rehash, the Adam West Batman series Joker, they're going to say, well, that's too retro and it's already been done. If you try to recreate Heath Ledger's Joker, they're going to cry foul and say, come on, that's, disrespectful. Ledger just put out this awesome performance and now he's passed. So what else could they have done? I certainly have some theories. Maybe that's better suited for another podcast. It seems tacky. It seems kitschy. It seems goofy. It seems very 2000 and fuck teen. I just don't like anything about its look or its message, and it feels very non-Joker to me.
Yeah.
I want to say this, that if he had gone the Caesar route, grown a mustache, and painted over it, I would be completely on board with that one. So, I agree about the other 2 points.
It's canon.
But if he would have grow a pimpin'-ass mustache, paint over it, and pretend like it wasn't there, totally. Yeah. You would sold me right then and there.
Absolutely. And so I'll try and stay rational. I have all the same anger as the two of you. But my big problem with it is that this Joker has to be the flip side to Batman, right? It has to be the other side of the coin. And my big problem is that this Joker is not the flip side of Batfleck. Batfleck is very Frank Miller inspired, very serious, very well executed, in my opinion, from everything I've seen so far. Obviously, haven't seen the movie yet, but very well executed in terms of at least the look and what they're talking about as his motivation. That seems like Batman to me. But in my opinion, your Batman is only as good as your Joker, and that's one of the reasons why, you love stories like Killing Joke, or you love stories like Dark Knight Returns, or you love, with its flaws, The Dark Knight. It is a flawed movie that has some holes in it, but that Joker and that Batman seem to go together. I don't see that happening with this Joker and that Batman. That's my problem with it.
Here, I just to comment there, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Batfleck is very Frank Miller, and you go look at the cover of The Killing Joke, that Joker and Jared Leto's face are reasonably similar. I could totally see that exact same iconic image of Joker being pulled off by Jared Leto. And
Yeah.
I kind of hate that I think of that, but that just seems like such a missed opportunity there. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Missed opportunity is my thing. I feel like we're being deprived of what Leto could have done had you said, be fucking insane, go halfway between Ledger and Nicholson, and that's where we want you at all times. That's this guy, and dress him like Killing Joke, or even make him a little bit older and dress him like, with the white blazer from Dark Knight Returns. I'd be fine with that too. But
Give him like an updo bro puff right up top like Killing Joke. I mean, that's a different look. It's a Joker that looks batshit crazy.
Yeah. It's just a little too on the nose or on the forehead, as it were, to fucking write damaged on his face. There's no way the Joker sits for that tattoo. All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna be done talking about that. So also we took a little 2-week hiatus here between episodes. So during our break, the final trailer for Force Awakens was released. I put it at the bottom of the news because it's not that timely. But I do want to talk a little bit about an article that I read on IO9 today, where it's titled "Where the Hell is Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars Force Awakens Marketing?" JJ commented, J.J. Abrams. If you're listening to this podcast, you know who James is.
We're on a first name basis with him. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
So fucking JJ. JJ came out today and he said, essentially, it's not a mistake that you haven't seen Luke yet. So, there's a reason why we haven't seen him, and it has to be a narrative reason, because otherwise his face would have been front and center on that poster, I think. But the last trailer came out, and I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the way that they're using original trilogy characters in the marketing for this movie, because I think we all had problems with the way they used original trilogy characters in the prequel movie, right? You had a lot of plot holes came from doing that. Because these come after, it helps. So I was kind of curious about what you guys think about the way they're using Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie from the marketing of this movie.
I think they are being smart in giving us glimpses of the characters that will be playing a role in kind of the overarching narrative of this film. And I say that deliberately because I'm kind of the camp that believes Luke will have nothing but maybe a glorified cameo, and that's exactly what reading the tea leaves of Abrams' comments says to me. So I think that this is going to be our story to introduce the new characters, set the stage of where the galaxy's at with kind of the different powers that be, the Resistance, the First Order, etc. And a lot of our original characters, I think, will play more secondary roles, and frankly, that's the right thing to do, except for Chewbacca. Chewbacca's kind of been front and center on, if you look at any of the media campaigns that have been out there, even some of the ones that came out before we saw our first Hans, I think had Chewie. And so I could see him, that character, playing a role in this new trilogy more so than some of the human original trilogy characters, and that just makes sense in that universe too, because Chewbacca's 200 some odd years old. What's another 15 for this new saga? So, I think they're being very strategic about it, and I think they learned from Lucas's missteps with the prequels, and a lot of it's very deliberate, probably in marketing and in story.
Yeah, I think the thing that strikes me about the marketing is how deliberate they're being, and how liberally they're giving us glimpses into the new characters while holding back the characters that we're more familiar with. Because if you don't do that, everybody just will focus on Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie. I think that was one of the main problems with the prequels, is that they only grabbed the characters that they could from a timing standpoint. And they grabbed as many of them as they possibly could, and I think the plot was shaped around that. We can grab young Obi-Wan and young Anakin. We can, slide C-3PO and R2-D2 in here when they have no place being here, just because those are characters people know, and it'll get people to come to them. This movie, I don't think the marketing team gives two bits of a shit, nor does JJ, because they know everybody's coming to see the damn thing. It sold like 65 million in online ticket sales and crashed Fandango after this trailer was released. So I don't think they're concerned about people coming to see it or not. So speaking of Star Wars, at Pop Nerdery, we wanted to introduce something new that's going to be coming to your podcast feed. It'll come to the regular podcast feed for our channel. But when big movies like this happen, when there's a huge release like Star Wars, something that the three of us are going to make a point of going to see on opening weekend, we're going to do a little bit of a movie review podcast. So we'll take an entire episode just to kind of deep dive into an individual movie, give thoughts, make jokes, make fun of.
Make jokes?
Yeah. I mean,
jokes?
You never know. I bet you people before Phantom Menace came out were they were ready to revere the thing as well. But I'm sure there were jokes to be had after the first viewing of that. So I have a lot more confidence in what's going to happen here. But I'm sure that it'll be fun for the three of us to deep dive into that. So what we'll do is in the A segment, which is normally headlines, we'll do kind of a non-spoiler review. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can kind of get our thoughts on, should I go see it? Should I not? Should I see it in 3D? Should I not? Should I? We'll answer some of those questions. And then in the B segment, we'll go full spoilers and we'll talk about all the revelations, all of the reveals, twists, whatsoever, whatever. This is a Disney movie. Disney owns the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. We might even get the first ever post-credits tag for a Star Wars movie. So we'll be, I'm sure we'll have thoughts on that when it happens. But yeah, we'll be here to do that after Star Wars. Star Wars will be our first review. But we'd like to do that from time to time, and maybe we'll go back and do like pretend reviews on old stuff as well. Yes, friend.
At the time of this taping, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, is less than 2 months away from hitting movie theaters.
Hot damn.
Holy shit. All right, and on that...
That's nuts.
On that, we'll be off to our first break.
Welcome back to the Pop Nerdery Podcast. Here in the second segment of this evening's entertainment, we've got a topic here for deep dive that we're going to kind of get between our teeth and shake it around like a dog with a dead squirrel in its mouth. That got weirder than I wanted to.
I like it.
But I'm going to stick with it.
Let's go.
So something that we've seen a lot of recently, and I think that as we kind of left Star Wars in that last segment, there's a lot of stuff going on in that universe that deals with this topic as well. It's how do you do a comic book as TV show versus how do you do a comic book as a movie? And in that, what we're talking about is there's a lot of difference between how you present what has been a printed medium effectively on the screen, and some of them lend themselves to great success. Like we've seen a lot of the Marvel movies do very, very well. And oftentimes you see them that don't lend themselves to great success, like, say, Catwoman, for example. And that may not have been the writing's fault, but I think you can. There's a lot of conversation to be had about what way we would all prefer. We all read comics. We all really like comics. There are some of our favorites. We've kind of discussed in the past ones that have been done that we were unhappy with and in which they'd been handled differently. I kind of want to delve into what are some of the things that we think make a successful comics show and what make a successful adaptation of a movie. And one of the things that I've got on my mind after that last segment is definitely how the Star Wars universe right now is very heavily invested in a lot of these graphic novels they're putting out. It's going to be, what we're getting for, the past couple months, for the next month. How does this going to affect the presentation of that?
Yeah, and so I have a lot of thoughts on that because I actually just finished the one graphic novel series that's coming out that's supposed to bridge the gap between Jedi and Force Awakens. It's Star Wars Shattered Empire. It was a limited series of 4. So they released the 4th one last week, and I read through all 4 straight in one straight shot. And the problem is with a lot of these is that they don't bridge the gap the way that they're supposed to. They don't tie in effectively. They don't affect things that are going to happen in the movie because they're not given authority to do it. So this really falls on the Star Wars story group or whoever runs that, whether it's, Joss Whedon for a while with the MCU, Kevin Feige, for the most part with the MCU, or, JJ and Larry Kasdan and those guys with the Star Wars story group. It's all about, are you giving whatever adaptation is, whether it is a graphic novel tie-in or a TV show tie-in like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ties into the movies, are you giving them something of substance, a story of substance and of weight or impact, something that is going to make an impact on the overall shared universe? Are you giving them a story like that to tell? And a lot of times you can't, because you don't want everybody to have to see that, to have to see everything. You don't want every casual fan to have to be a completist. That's why I think it works better when you're able to tell contained stories that have impact in and of themselves. And I think Daredevil is the best example of that, the Daredevil Netflix series. So that ran for 12 episodes, which is very similar to a long comic book arc, or 2 short comic book arcs would be 6 or 12 issues. Daredevil works because it is of consequence to the characters within it. Not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to affect the Avengers in order for it to have meaning and weight. It just has to affect the characters within it and focus inside of that one story. There are some of the Star Wars tie-ins that don't do that, and that's been kind of disappointing.
And I wonder if this is something that kind of lends that success, because the Daredevil movie, as much as Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, was really fucking terrible. And I really like the show. And I feel like this is also something that Dave and I have lamented at length about the Batman, is that we're sick and tired of the origin story, and we don't ever want to see it again. However, I feel like Daredevil, the Netflix adaptation, did an amazing job with his origin story, which I knew and was still very interested in, because they kind of split it up throughout the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
Like, you get the majority of it in the first one, but then you continue to get pieces of his backstory, as opposed to in a movie where you have to do in a big fat dose so that you can then start the A arc to resolution.
Right.
And I think that that's probably something to be said for, shows doing things a little bit better. The flip side of that is, and I think, Dave, I'm going to lead you right into where you want to talk about Gotham, which is an abortion on wheels falling down the hill.
Yeah, and the thing is that, like, a character like Daredevil or a character like Batman lends itself to a slow burn inside of the contained story. Gotham has 100 problems that don't have to do with Gotham has 100 problems that don't have to deal with whether or not they're telling an origin story, or whether or not they're not on model with any of their characters, and that's the main problem. So that you're not seeing the characters that you know and love. I think the main problem with Gotham is that it has to fill 24 episodes. I have a huge problem with having to fill that many, because a lot of them become exactly that. They're just filler. And that's one of the main problems with Gotham. I've tried to dip in here and dip in there, but they can't move. I'm trying to find the right word. They can't move purposefully toward a specific thing because they have so much time to fill. So yeah.
And I think this is something I'm curious about, because Brent, I know you've watched some of the Clone Wars movie, TV show, web series, all the different things they've done with that.
Yeah.
Where are you with Clone Wars vis-a-vis the stuff they're doing in comics vis-a-vis where we're coming up to the movies? How do you feel like they've handled, like, I know that's a very vast universe, but how do you feel like they've handled those stories there?
Yeah, so you talked to me specifically about the Clone Wars. There's been a lot of different iterations of what the Clone Wars were, needed to be, etc. When the prequels were still coming out, Dark Horse was in charge of the comic series that bridged Episode 2 to Episode 3, and they were live producing comics to send us stories about the Jedi generals and their clone battalions going to different planets and doing missions, and they were very deliberate about what they were doing which led up to Episode 3 and set the stage for some of the battles that were happening on the different planets that were actually featured in the Episode 3 film and everything. So I felt kind of obligated, or at least vested, in reading the Dark Horse series, Clone Wars comics. And then, sure enough, like 2 years later, or whenever it was that they released the CGI Clone Wars movie, pardon me, I skipped a step. There was also the
Tartakovsky series on Cartoon Network.
Yeah. The Cartoon Network stuff, and a lot of that was kind of a reworking, or at least tangentially played with some of the novels that were coming out at the time. Some by James Luceno, who was kind of arguably the best author that came out of some of the prequel era stories. And that Clone Wars Cartoon Network series was really pretty fantastic and set a nice tone and had kind of a young adult feel to it, but told a narrative that I think we all were kind of curious about with the Clone Wars, and then jumped to the movie and the series that Lucas was very heavily involved in, which contradicted some of the Dark Horse comic stuff and some of the Cartoon Network series stuff. And, it was fine.
Because it had character development and, plot and those kind of things. And Lucas was like, nope, fuck this shit. We've got to throw this shit right fucking away.
Yeah. And frankly, the Clone Wars series that is now still considered, or is now considered canon by Disney, is fine, and there's good stuff in there. I think that's a lot of the story that many of us who grew up on the original trilogy felt like we needed to see. The Obi-Wan and Anakin, dynamic duo, brothers, going through the trials and tribulations. So there's a lot of that stuff that I think, especially when we're talking about comics, and this is kind of my overarching theory on this, is when we're talking about comics do such an excellent job dabbling in both action and character in a way that is difficult to do with meaning in a slow roll television series. And that's where, like, the most effective movies can dip their toes at the same time. I'm developing character, but I'm setting up action sequences that both fit the narrative of the character and fit the narrative of the story. Television shows get stuck in a place where sometimes they got to do more action at the sacrifice of character, or more character at the sacrifice of action. So comics deal with that issue in a way that sometimes these other mediums can't.
Yeah, and I think that one of the reasons why, and it's an inside baseball or behind the scenes reason why, it's not necessarily a narrative reason why, but it's budget. Comics don't have to worry about CGI budget. Comics don't have to worry about action budget. So that's why comics can do it so well, because everything stays consistent as long as you use the same artist, or you use the same artist with a similar style. They can stay consistent and they can stay of high quality even when you up the action factor or you up the whatever factor. Whereas when you roll into TV and movies, I think it's really important to, and I think again we suck Marvel's dick on this podcast quite frequently, but it is, and we do it for good reason, because what they're doing, the choices that they're making in terms of, do we do this as a movie or do we do this as a TV show, outside of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
which is terrible,
which is not good, and it's a budget reason why it's not good, in my opinion.
Their writing is pretty shit too.
So it's a budget plus they're not given anything interesting to do, right? They have to just kind of they have to tread water until the Inhumans movie is the problem, in my opinion, with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But what I was going to say is that Marvel, outside of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., does a very, very good job of putting the right characters in the right mediums. You take a character like Daredevil, who should be in a 12 episode Netflix series, and you do that. You take a character like Iron Man, who all you need is like 3 action set pieces, and you have Tony Stark, quipping his way through the other, hour and 15 minutes of the movie, he is perfect for a movie. I think you put the right characters in the right spots and everything else takes care of itself. If you need more money to be able to tell the story in a way that's believable because you need more CGI or you need, a bigger name star to take care of it, you go that route. And if not, I would love to see Batman in a Netflix series. I would love to see a detective Batman in a 12-episode Netflix series. Or a 12-episode HBO series. That would really, I would love that. That would be my best interpretation of the Dark Knight Detective, which we don't really get to see in movies.
Dave, are you suggesting that Batman is True Detective Season 3?
Ooh.
If they made Batman True Detective Season 3, I might come back.
Batman
you could
and Russ Cole?
You could totally see Commissioner Gordon in the Woody Harrelson role and Bruce Wayne
Correct.
in the Russ Cole role, right?
Well, I like to think. Well, maybe
Time is a bat circle.
Oh, man, that was so bad. That
We're
was
so
bad.
clever.
So I'd like to think, probably delusionally, that Bruce is a little bit more in touch with reality than Rust Cole, but probably not, huh?
Well,
No.
that assumes Russ Cole was not in touch with reality.
Oh. Yeah.
So, just one thing real quick that you started kind of touching on there. I lost my point.
That's all right. I could talk forever on this. I think the main thing is, for me, we have been slave to the medium for such a long time.
Oh, I figured it out.
We've been slave to the fact that there are 24 hours in a day, and we break them into these 24 segments or these 48 segments that TV needs to fill, and they have
Very arbitrary, right?
exactly.
Yes.
And on top of that, they have
System.
these 2.5-minute breaks that they have to take in order to make money. So we've been enslaved to that for such a long time. The thing that's super exciting for me is that I can watch a show like Daredevil, or you can watch anything on HBO at this point. And if the episode needs to run 48 minutes to tell the correct story, it runs 48 minutes. If it needs to run 108 minutes, it runs 108 minutes. And that is
Lost.
I'm not on board with Lost. I could never get through it because there were
But we all agree the sooner network TV dies, the better.
exactly.
You just said 108, and that made me think of Lost, and that was actually my point. Lost did something very novel, which was they scheduled their end date. And that's something that movies have a luxury of saying, all right, we're going to write a screenplay. It's going to have this many beats. It's going to have an A, a B, and a C. They know basically how much time they need to fill. If you're a series, a television show, that you're praying you can make it to episode 6, and then you're praying you can make it to episode 12, and then you're praying you can get a second season. I think that's going to kind of go away with the Netflix model and things like that.
I feel like we're almost already there.
Almost, yeah.
The show
Yeah,
is
I
good.
agree.
It has the numbers with web series, Netflix, Amazon, and a lot of the other people ponying up to pay for content. I kind of feel like
Good call.
we're getting to the point where TV has become like a 6-episode audition process to then get picked up somewhere else.
Yeah,
which is fantastic for us because it means a lot of weird shit is going to get made.
Yeah, and I just need original shit, and I need it to be something where the story and or the characters can triumph over the needs of the dumb American viewer. And that's
That'll never happen.
And that the dumb American viewer continues to be such a driver for Hollywood and what the standard television networks or the standard movie studios decide to do. And there was there are so many great original ideas coming out that get trumped because there's some reboot that people with lots of money in their pockets think is gonna Just pad their stacks again.
So
I agree, but I also think that sorry, Dave, I'm gonna jump in only because I think that there's some of the stuff that's being remade and is being done better.
Totally.
Some of the stuff that's being remade is being
do
done
that.
Totally
Do
Mad
all
Max
that.
Fury Road is vastly superior to any of the previous Mad Max films. And like the expanded universe we're getting in the comics are, heads and tails above the other shit we're getting. That said, like, I don't want another Spider-Man movie. I'm right there with you. I have no need to ever see Spider-Man again.
I'd rather see it be done right at some point. We can revisit anything that has fantastic original content to draw from and do it well and figure out a way to do it well. But just rehash. I don't need to see Grown Ups 5 ever.
Well, we weren't interested in Grown Ups 1, to be totally fair. But you were talking about the dumb American viewer, and I think that's a perfect segue into talking about a different comic book adaptation that I don't feel works, and that's The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead has a mindless horde of viewers that will keep it on into season 13, I'm sure.
Isn't it weird? There were like 150 people who were reading this book, and now there are like 8 million people who watch it. I am one of the few nerds here who I'm actually like incredibly against this thing getting more. I don't want to see any more of it made.
I don't think you're on your own though.
Period.
So there are some things in Walking Dead where like if you watch it without any expectation of story or plot or character development, and you just watch it for the zombie kills, cool. It does a really, really good job of it. And the costume designers and the special effects people on that show do a fantastic job. And it looks good, right, as a zombie thing. But the problem is that they are stuck to a certain number of episodes. It very much is, we are going to fit this story to the medium as opposed to fit the medium to the story.
Yeah.
And when we live in an age of Netflix will order an entire season of something for you to tell a specific story, a show like The Walking Dead struggles because a show like The Walking Dead there's not much there unless you really stick to what's in the books. And even
here's my
I love
issue.
The books, but yeah, go ahead.
Then I want them to stick to the goddamn books.
Yeah.
After the second season, they used to have a huge left turn and never looked back again. And occasionally would just I stopped watching after season 3 because I got so mad that I had read 10,000 pages of that comic for them just to basically then just appropriate the title and do something entirely different. In which case it is, then why trade on that IP? Just make it your own thing then.
So my thing on this is that if they had made it better, I would have been able to be okay with it, but the comic series is still better. And I still read it because it takes me like 12 seconds to read an issue of Walking Dead. It's the easiest comic book to read, and it's the most probably accessible thing that we have. And that's why
not a lot of words.
That's why the graphic novels sell like crazy.
I have to cry foul on both of you ever complaining about this. Okay?
Tell me why.
Because the two of you are such diehard comic fans that you have lived and breathed and absorbed every reboot of every comic book character that notoriously happens over and over and over again to keep their stuff fresh, that I can't hear you and take seriously that, Game of Thrones, the book said this, but the TV series did that. Or Walking Dead, the story was this and the TV series did something different. If you weren't actually living and breathing in both worlds at the same time, it would not affect you. The same way it doesn't affect you when a comic says, all right, it's 1997, we're just going to change everything now, and here's the new launch point.
I fully grant you that point, but I do think you have to make it at least as good in order for me to like it. If the story is better in one or the other, or if
has every Batman story that's come out been as good as the last one?
No, but I bitch about it like crazy. Like,
right, I was gonna say this podcast, but complain about them fucking up the material.
If the
we'll do hours and hours on them fucking up the source material. My issue with The Walking Dead is if you think you can write a better story than what The Walking Dead has already written, then write your own goddamn show and come up with it, and I'll watch it, and I probably would like it. But don't tread on an IP as a springboard to then launch your new and exciting idea of what. It's the same reason that I was so fucking mad about a lot of the Batman shit.
Yeah, and I do want to say two things about Walking Dead real quick. I'm not saying that the comic is like a paragon of literary value. It's not. It's a fun read. Whereas the Walking Dead TV show is not. It's not fun in the same way. The Walking Dead TV show is grueling, or at least was grueling. I made it through, I think, season 4.5 or 5, something like that, and had to give it up because it was just so dour and so sad. Like I feel like if you're going to adapt something to TV, or you're going to adapt something to a movie, your first responsibility is to match the tone of the thing, so that way the people who enjoyed the original thing enjoy your thing. Maybe I'm wrong.
I need to make a very carnival of laughs.
I need to make a very specific point right now. I totally understand the premise. I totally understand exactly what you're saying there. Go do something fresh. Go do something different. Call it something different. Don't just appeal to somebody because they're familiar with something, right? But I think all of us can sit here and say there are fantastic originals and there are fantastic revisits across mediums. There are cover songs that are better than their originals. Johnny Cash is Hurt.
Correct.
To Nine Inch Nails is Hurt. I don't know why it's escaping me. The Donnie Darko.
Mad World. Tears for Fears, Mad World, and
whatever. Yes, Tears for Fears.
So
both of those things can exist, and I can love and appreciate both of those for different reasons, even though they are true to the source material in some ways and completely opposite to the source material in others. So
right, it's the difference between in a cover song adding your own third verse because you think you can write it better.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I mean,
The Walking Dead decided that they could do their third verse better and just wrote a whole fucking different ending to the song.
I'm sure if you gave me enough time, I could research a period of time where they introduced a rap verse to Lady Marmalade or something, and it was good. But yeah, I know.
It was not good, sir.
Ouch.
It was terrible. It was not good.
But I do think
you've got to give me credit for being able to come up with that.
No, that was the example was appropriate. However,
I'm not saying that was better.
So maybe what we come to then, maybe I was wrong when I said you have to be true to the tone, because you don't necessarily. You could change the tone. You can take a rap song and do an acoustic version. Tone is different. And I still like the thing.
Big butts and I cannot lie. You are the brothers can't deny.
But I think
a girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a bumping in your face, you get sprung.
Whole conversation. It is you have to be true to the character. Yeah,
Bingo.
That is the problem that I have with Walking Dead, is that there were some characters that are very likable and very brave and heroic in the comic that are not so in the TV show, or die, or get killed off early, or whatever, in the TV show versus the comic. Same thing with our discussion earlier about the Joker. You have to be true to the character. There's no way that character is that thing that they're giving us. So I think that's my overarching thing. Is regardless of which,
in reality, there's nothing different about, except for like length of run between the way you present it in TV versus the way you present it in a movie.
I think as long as the length that you choose can allow you to be true to the character, it can work. I think there is a Daredevil movie out there that could work, but the TV show version is better because it allows you to be more true to the character. And that's kind of my overarching thing is you have to tailor everything else to, do I get the character right? Because that's what we care about, right? Yeah. All I care about is whether or not Batman feels like Batman. All I care about is whether or not Luke feels like Luke in whatever it is I'm reading or whatever it is I'm watching. And that's kind of my overarching for this whole thing.
Yeah, to pull from Shrek, I want my characters to have layers, right? Just like an onion has layers. And I think that,
guys, you can tell Brent has 2 young children.
Yeah, no.
I got kids. I have no idea what he's talking about.
I liked that. I like that metaphor from 1997 on. It's good.
Shrek is the first person to ever point out that onions have layers, and so do people.
I think there's such an important element to peeling back, different elements of characters, and whoever you are as the creator, you get to decide the medium that happens. And so again, I'm bringing up Lost for the second time here, but for the first couple seasons of Lost, we got to peel back these layers because they did these flashback stories on the characters, and we found out new things about the characters that we never expected because they were in a different place in the world, and they learned something from that experience that's now coming back into play in this present tense and that sort of thing. You guys talked about the origin story stuff. Sometimes a superhero or a non-superhero, but let's be honest, even action films, those guys are just superheroes. Sometimes that element, their origin story, isn't super important. I don't need to know why John McClane is a fantastic police officer.
Movie.
Yeah, well, I don't. I don't need to know why he's an awesome police officer. I do not need to know that. I just get thrown into it. I don't need to know why Han Solo is a fantastic smuggler. I'm just thrown into it, and that's okay. But sometimes I do kind of need to know the origin story, or at least I want you to give me these little glimpses of things to tell me why the character that I've already latched onto is the way they are. And so whether it's Daredevil, whether it's Batman, whether it's come up with some other better example, I'm okay with them layering that story very slowly, deliberately, and because of that, taking from a comic, going to a different medium makes a ton of sense.
I think maybe for the first time on the PopNerdery Podcast, a long rambling diatribe has actually yielded some wisdom here.
Whoa!
Exciting and new. I think that, can't disagree with any of the thoughts put forth here, but I'm very excited to see what other examples folks have, if they can find out, where they maybe feel like the character was truly represented from the source material. Holler at us on Twitter at PopNerdery. Hit us up in the comment section on the website. I'm going to continue arguing with someone there. I don't care who it is. I'll just keep arguing with whoever's there in that comment section. So hang out and let us know, where do you think that this differentiator comes down? Is it TV versus movie, or do you think it is truly all about representing that character from the source material?
All right. Let's take our next break.
Welcome back. To wrap up this episode of the PopNerdery Podcast, we will go through our recommendations. Just a couple things that either, we are planning on getting caught up on or things we're looking forward to. So each of us will kind of go over a little bit, and hopefully it's stuff that's on your guys' radar as well. As always, with any of this, you can let us know your thoughts in the comments. But certainly give us reasons to look forward to something you have on your radar. I know Dave's got something specific he was curious to bring to our attention tonight.
Yeah, this is something I was actually a little bit late on. I obviously, just like everybody, my nightly ritual was The Daily Show and then Colbert for a long time, especially in college. So it took me a while to get to it, but I just started watching Stephen Colbert's new late night show for the last week or so, and I really liked the top end of it. I mean, the back end is the same late night format that you're used to. It is, I have guest one, guest two, they're promoting something, and that's that. But I really like the top end of it. He does a pretty decent job with the monologue, which is something that he's, obviously not totally familiar with yet, because he's new to it. But then when he comes back from his first break, he does like the traditional Colbert, I'm at the desk and I have, a chyron over my right shoulder, of somebody's face or whatever I'm commenting on, and that is played as part of the joke. There is a lot of carryover from his Comedy Central show, and I've really been enjoying it. The only show I like as much on late night is Seth Meyers, and you know what? There are just some nights where I can't make it to Seth Meyers. It's a little bit too late. I like Seth Meyers' monologue a little bit better, but Colbert will do when
that guy still has a show.
Yeah, Seth Meyers has his own show after Fallon.
They need to do a way better job of promoting that thing.
Yeah.
When's the last time I saw one of those videos passed around?
Problem.
There've only been a few of the Seth Meyers that have actually caught my attention. It's mostly because I'm just such an SNL junkie. He's actually done a kind of cool thing called Second Chance.
I like him.
Second Chance Theater is just kind of a fun idea where he brings on SNL alums and they talk about sketches that they proposed and it never got picked up or aired. And then they do it on the show. So that's something that's definitely worth checking out. But,
why are you
I'm with you, Dave.
this on Facebook? Where are you in sharing this with me?
What's Facebook? What is? Why? How?
I think
it's that thing that we comment on old photos of one another and remark about how young and or skinny we look.
The other thing about Seth Meyers, as opposed to Fallon, or as opposed to Colbert, or even John Oliver at this point, who has proven to be the king of sharing his stuff on social media. The thing with Meyers is that the stuff I like about Seth Meyers is the stuff that is not like flashy social media stuff, whereas like Fallon has celebrities and puts them in weird situations where they lip sync or they
with the group band.
Exactly. So like so he does those things a lot that are built for social media. Whereas what I love about Seth Meyers is that his monologue is essentially Weekend Update. And they're set up punchline with a picture that is often funny. So I love Weekend Update. That's my favorite part of SNL, and it always has been.
Sure.
So taking that to late night, if I can stay up late enough, Seth Meyers is my pick. But in his lateness, I've gotten a little bit more acquainted with Stephen Colbert's new show.
Dave, can I tell you about a thing called a DVR, where you don't have to watch a show in the time that it actually airs?
Well, see, the thing is that there's no way I'm going back to watch episodes of late night television. Like, there's
I
no
just
way.
watched the monologue. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not interested in going back and doing a whole episode, but I used to watch The Daily Show time shifted when I wasn't going to stay up for it. Just to catch the opening, and because when you can just time shift that down to like 7 minutes and out, I mean, that's how I want to watch television, quite frankly.
Yeah. The Daily Show is one where you kind of had to see it in order to be able to, have that conversation with people, especially in college, obviously. But
oh my God, The Daily Show was on when you were in college.
No, The Daily Show was on when you were in college.
Dude, it was on when we were in high school. What are you talking about?
The Daily Show has always been on.
Moment of Zen. Come on, Toph.
Come on.
But the thing is like, late night you used to have to watch in order to be able to talk about it at the water cooler, and now you don't because nobody watches the same shit anymore.
That's when it was Letterman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to kind of double back on that a little bit, one of the fun things that Meyers has done is he got drunk with his brother and his dad, and they talked about how the mom would have drank all of them under the table, and then he went back and did day drinking with his mom. It's actually pretty entertaining. Seth Meyers is a very real dude, and I can appreciate that.
We just called that the Weekend in my house. That's not weird.
Colbert played the Stephen Colbert
role
character on the Comedy Central series in a way that he's not doing on his CBS show, and I appreciate the subtle transition, and props to him for still being able to avoid the shtick and be funny and have a voice that doesn't seem crazy, when we all became used to that other version of him. So, good recommendations. Late night TV has a place, I think, for sure. Still, even if it lives in viral videos.
Yeah.
Basically.
Toph, what's your recommendation for this week?
So Dave was worried about his being old. I'm going back in the Wayback Machine.
Good.
So as all of us who have a Twitter feed that's filled with people who live in England, as all of us do, because we all love and support a English Premier Football team.
No, I just think you mean there's a global social community.
Right, but I've specifically tailored mine to exclude all Yanks because you guys are really fucking crazy. Like, have you seen your gun laws? You guys are fucking nuts. So, anyways, my
You live in Indiana.
English people, as you know, Scousers, as we'd like to say. So they were very excited about a thing called This Is England that apparently then had several what I thought were just spin-offs. Turns out This Is England was actually a film that came out in 2005 and then spawned a bunch of miniseries that's like it is set in 83 and then it was updated for 86, 88, and 90, and it came out 2 subsequent years later and included all of the same primary actors. So it's very about a boy kind of a thing where you actually get to watch actors who are 2 years older revise the same roles in a, you know, going back into a specific time and era in history. And the initial story is very good in This Is England. It's a feature film about a disenfranchised youth who falls into some ne'er do well children, and there's a morality tale and everything else. It's fine. It's good. I liked it a lot. But I was actually
like a smaller version of Boyhood, huh?
Yeah, in that you get 3 different.
Deliberate.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I think it simply was the movie did very well, and then someone was like, we would like more of this, and they said, we'll do a miniseries every couple of years. Like, the next one did well, so they commissioned another one, which did well, so they commissioned another one. So you actually get to watch, I have not watched 90. I have watched This Is England 86, and This Is England 88. So there's another one that actually was just released in October of this year. That's This Is England 90. So it's the 4th time that these people have played these characters. And I'm really kind of fascinated. Like, I like the story and everything else is good, but I'm actually very much fascinated by how the same people have been playing the same roles for going on like almost a decade now. And the storytelling adapts to that, and they're telling 4 different stories based on the 4 different eras of their lives and doing it. Because I think there's a way that this could be very bad and very, like, trying too hard to, like, pick up on every cultural or pop culture thing that was going on at that time and, like, kind of cramming it into those episodes. And instead they let it be something subtle that's just in the background of these films in the subsequent miniseries. And, yeah, I'm hooked. Like, it's a little bit soap opera-y, and I'm still just like, yep, mm-hmm.
So I might have missed it. Where are you watching this at?
These are all available on YouTube now.
Okay.
Free of use. And I don't know if it's just simply because I am in America that they're willing to hand it out for free. But yeah, I found all of them thus far on YouTube. So
awesome.
Those could be pirate copies. I don't know. I was just watching them on YouTube.
Nice.
Cool.
Not trying to get anybody shut down by the feds here. I just
I found them
yet. Unless it's a bounty, in which I would like the FBI to call me because I have some information.
No disintegrations this time.
Exactly.
That was super lame.
No disintegration.
I was very fascinated to kind of watch the same actor play a character for 10 years. Like, even on the longest running American sitcoms, like, we barely reach that. So to kind of come back and do period pieces with the same cast has been super interesting. I wish they would do something similar for American history, because we do a lot of these things for, like, retrospectives into the 60s and the 70s and all the way back, going back to, like, World War II, but we haven't done, like, near history pieces. And I would very much love it if we could do cultural near history pieces going back and looking at, like, the 80s and 90s from that same American perspective in a sitcom.
Yeah. And I think the point you made was really great, without it being a, hey, remember that Nirvana song? And hey, remember when... Yeah.
It's not VH1's Remember the 90s.
Exactly.
They do it like it's scored well with, those songs, but it feels very natural. It never feels like you're being shoehorned into, like, hey, flock of seagulls, right? Adam Ant. Mm-hmm. Like, it's done in a way that the story comes first and those other things fit naturally into the characters' lives in the way that they would for... that's young people.
Very nice.
Yeah, very cool.
So This Is England. Get it.
My recommendation is similar in a different way. I have purposefully I have a short list now of movies that I probably bypassed, maybe were or weren't on my radar, and I'm deliberately trying to go back because they seemingly have stood the test of time over a very small window. The first movie on my docket is the movie The Cabin in the Woods. Have either of you seen that?
Yes. It is fantastic.
Okay. See, and I love it. Okay, perfect.
Oh, man!
Two disparaging
we could do a whole
reviews.
thing.
Yeah, I when that movie came out, I saw the original trailer and go, yep, garbage. And then, kind of the internet was abuzz back in 2012 of, no, guys, it's not your standard Cabin in the Woods film. And it was, done by Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon, who I think the dork community can certainly...
We all worship Joss.
Yeah, so I was pretty excited to find it available on Amazon Prime. Added it to my watch list, and then it came off Amazon Prime. And then I had it available on the DVR, and I recorded it. And because it's Halloween, it just seems fitting to do kind of a horror film at this point in time, which takes itself very not seriously and kind of has a more meta look on things, and definitely plays on some of the tropes and does some nice throwbacks and playing with the torture film genres and things like that. So you guys just voiced it right there. I think it definitely has a love-hate relationship with people, but it was very original. And Rotten Tomatoes still carries a 92%, I believe. So to me, that's something that, because it's going to be funny and scary and smart and deliberate. And you know me, I'm a sucker for a twist ending, which I think is already coming at me.
I have to say,
then I'm in for it.
I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I'm very much pro people seeing Cabin in the Woods.
I loved the I didn't love the ending, but I loved the journey to get there. Like, I loved all of the meta references. I especially loved the two I think it's James Cromwell and Bradley Whitford. They play
right.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to give anything away because people should be watching this movie. It's right around Halloween. You should just go watch it. It's not your typical slasher flick.
Yeah.
So on that point, on our way out tonight, gentlemen, I'd like to leave the folks with our recommendations for must-watch or seasonal watches for Halloween.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna jump in, give you guys some time to think here. I have two, and it's both because I am a huge Hitchcock disciple. But every October, I have to positively hit The Birds, and I've got to get the original Psycho. To the point where I showed both of those to my then girlfriend, then fiance, then wife, and she still likes me. So I've got that going for me. But yeah, every October.
Which is nice.
I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of her not leaving. She's pretty great. But every October I gotta hit.
You just said that for when she listens to the podcast.
He's a smart man.
She'll never listen to the podcast. I mean, it'd be nice. She would be our fourth listener at this point. So
my wife, well, my then fiance, faked like she listened to the podcast before just to humor me. She would listen to snippets. I know, because she's fucking great. Yeah. But yeah, same thing. I need to get on watching the original Psycho. I have never done it, but I have watched The Bird. So I made the mistake of watching the Anne Heche fake remake version of Psycho.
Let's all go inside.
Yeah, it was not good. So my two Halloween recommendations are, one, you just have to, every year, just watch Halloween, the movie. You have to watch Halloween. That's the movie you have to watch. It is, in my opinion...
That's a great shout.
In my opinion, it is the best of the slasher genre. I think that Jamie Lee Curtis is a great scream queen in that movie. Yeah. I also think that Michael Myers and the usage of Michael Myers in that movie is the perfect usage of any slasher. So
I think I think we can say safely that Halloween is the official slasher movie of the Pop Nerdery podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then to go a little more cabin in the woods for you fellas.
It's a treehouse. It's
on the woods. No, cabin in the woods. I want to go a little meta. I don't think people give enough credit to Scream. I do love
Great
Scream.
call out. Yep.
I love watching it and no one has ever said this in the history of time. I like Jamie Kennedy, right?
Wow. Ditto.
Right. He is us in that movie.
Yep.
God, I wanted to tear you apart for that, but I can't.
Yeah, he is us in that movie.
Great shout.
I don't love him in much else.
No.
But his character,
That one.
Randy in Scream was always my favorite character.
No one has liked Randy. No one has liked Jamie Kennedy before that. No one has liked Jamie Kennedy since that.
After that.
But he is the character that makes that movie work. And honestly, it's not Halloween if I don't watch Halloween or Scream. One of the two.
And you can't pretend that it didn't spawn a million other movies.
Oh yeah.
So.
Right. All great options. I'll kind of go off a few different ones. In general, I'm a big fan of around this time just turning on AMC and just soaking in whatever they give me. Because somehow
there's been a lot of good there.
Yeah, somehow along the way I've missed a lot of some of the iconic horror films, and whether it's because the visual effects don't stand up or the technology that the characters are using is outdated. Some of them don't really stand the test of time, but certainly many of them do. I think The Exorcist is one that stands the test of time for me. But I'm going to go a little off the beaten trail. Christine is one of the movies that
I like it.
That I really
that's good.
That whole concept is just so kind of bizarre but eerie and
that'll scare the shit out of you. Yeah.
Yeah, even though it's an old car and it's an older movie, like
doesn't matter.
That same concept still kind of holds true.
Well, it's the same reason that I like the birds, right? Like you can look at it and go, oh, well, that's like, the birds are bad puppets, everything else. But then, like the next time you go outside, there's a big flock of like, even if they're just fucking sparrows, you're like, I fucking know you. I know what you're doing.
Cujo kind of works in that same way.
Yep. Once that idea is pointing in your head, it doesn't matter.
Alien.
Well,
works
I haven't been on a derelict spaceship, so that's not been a real life application yet.
Yet.
I do think you probably saw the birds at the right time, Toph. And I know that this isn't the right segment to get into this conversation, but the birds was tough to watch as a 24-year-old and be scared by it.
Yeah, if you don't have that one early.
Yeah.
That's why I've showed it to my 2-year-old twice now.
You are
Father of the Year.
Father of the Year. All right.
Yeah, great call outs. I think there's, especially as some cinema gurus, if we can claim ourselves to be as such, this is the time of year to soak in some classics that typically get brought up in movie watching classes at university and things. So great conversations as always. Pop Nerdery listeners, thank you so much for joining us. It's really been our pleasure spitting words
all four of you
into your ears. We definitely want you guys to let us know what parts you want us to dive deeper into, what parts we missed. Let us know in comments. Give us those rates, those reviews. Chime in and let us know what you want us to dive into in future podcasts, and let us know where we were right or wrong. This is Brent, your host, bidding Topher and Dave a fond farewell. Until next time, guys. Finger guns.
Love you guys.